Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie. I'm here for my August wrap up. I did read more than I did last month, but not nearly as much as I wanted to. However, I did do it vlog style. If you watched my reset video last month, oh my god, it's September, I forgot. I mentioned that I was going to be doing a vlog style wrap up. I got the idea from Kristen Crave's books. And so that is what I did. Pretty much in the moment, whenever I finished a book, I turned my camera on and I immediately talked about it. That way, all of my immediate emotions and all of my specific thoughts, some things I'll probably forget by the end of the month, were documented. The first book I talk about, I actually checked in on the halfway mark and the final mark. So without further ado, why don't you travel back in time with me? I am almost halfway through this book on page 162. I'm listening to the audiobook while I work and I just burst into tears. It's funny because I didn't think I was gonna... Okay, the long guys are here, sorry. But I didn't think I was gonna like this book at all, and it is unputdownable and deeply sad, but deeply psychological. I love these characters. I care about them. They are also complex. Why did I doubt Taylor Jenkins Reid? I don't know. This is a story about a family. Oh my god. There's a bunch of different timelines. The present timeline, I think, is taking place in the 70s or the 80s. It's in the 80s. There are 4 siblings. And according to the flap, this is all about one night when they have a party, this famous party that they have every year. And it tells us in the flap that the house is gonna burn down. So something horrible is gonna happen that we already know. But up to halfway, the party hasn't even started, and we've gotten a lot about the generational story, which, yes, is a word that sounds boring, but it's always so powerful when there's a generational story, especially when it has to do with like love and loss. So we got how their parents met, the absolutely squeezable neck of Mick Riva, who is their father, who's this like famous guy who's just a deadbeat dad, and their mother, June. I cannot explain to you how many times I have out loud said, oh, poor June, poor June. Oh, it's just heartbreaking. Anyway, we see them meet when June is just a teenager. It's in the 50s, so you kind of get that 50s feeling, which I don't know, I think she did a really good job of that. And you see the ups and downs of this marriage, of June having these children, and then you get little by little of these children growing up, and I don't even know where we're going. I feel like I have a hint of something else truly tragic that's gonna happen, and I don't want it to happen. This is kind of giving me feelings of A Visit from the Goon Squad, where it's stories about people who do not have happy lives. There are happy moments in it, but like, literally anything can happen. Your life could suck and you could die. And I'm getting that in here, which, you know, is really sad, but this is one of my only 5 stars of the year. So this is very promising. I could definitely give this 5 stars. We'll see by the end. All right, I just finished Malibu Rising, and wow, I'm so surprised how much I enjoyed this book because this is how my expectations were. Malibu Rising? I don't want to read that. I definitely like the first half better, where you're getting everyone's backstory and you're really diving deep into the characters of this family. The second half is when the party was actually happening and there wasn't any flashbacks really. It was really all in the present moment. Didn't like it as much. Also because we were randomly going into the point of views of random ass people who did not matter, like at all. I really don't mind like a third eye view going into everyone's perspective if it's for a tiny moment, not like an entire chapter. Or if it's for like one of the siblings' significant others, one of their best friends. I don't mind that. I think that was interesting because they're related to the main characters, but they were just random people in here. Tuesday? Who the F was Tuesday, and why do we have a chapter on her? Vaughn? Just random ass rich people. It's like, I don't give a shit about these people. I think what was happening was that Taylor Jenkins Reid was really trying to like make this crazy chaotic energy, which, you know, did work. But the whole first half of the book wasn't like that. We weren't getting random people's point of views. We were getting the main characters, all of their point of views. Which is funny because in this book, it's all just random people's point of views. And I loved it. But I definitely feel closer to the characters in here because it is a character-driven book. So why do we get random characters? I don't know. I'm gonna be annoyed about that. Also, the audiobook, I recommend so strongly. Julia Whalen, I absolutely love her. I could listen to her read anything to me, and I think I would like it even more. So I'm so glad that I did read it. And I'm glad I had the physical copy as well, because I had to stop and highlight a couple things. And I got emotional several times reading this book. My God. Ugh. I don't know if I I don't know if I like the ending or how everything wrapped up. I thought it was gonna be super, super tragic, and I'm kind of glad it wasn't as dark as I thought it was gonna be. But I also feel like things kind of wrapped up a little too nicely, which is weird because there were several storylines that never got wrapped up. But I don't know, I just didn't like the second half of this book. Also, it's kind of sad even just to think about the ending and how, you know, it says in the synopsis, this isn't a spoiler, that the house and Malibu ends up bursting into flame because there are crazy deadly fires happening just a couple islands over from me in Maui, and it's scary and people are dying. And it was kind of weird hearing that at the end. It was just kind of like an offhand, like, this will happen and it will continue to happen over and over, and it just, I don't know. It's really sad what's going on right now, and so it's hard for me to like feel flippant about fires in general at this present moment. But that aside, I don't want to get sad about the actual world right now, but in this book, the sadness that this brought me, mostly with June, my God, weirdly warmed my heart.
I'm in love with an emo girl.
Also, Brandon is a little shit, and I feel like I hate him more than Mick Riva. It's gonna be interesting watching this later because it's so funny when I immediately finish a book, I have all these very specific details that are on my brain, and usually by the end of the month I've completely forgotten them, and they're also probably not that important. But Brandon sucks. And it was so weird hearing how much Carrie Soto was mentioned in this book, because I did start Carrie Soto. I think I listened to maybe half of that book and I was so scared it was gonna be sad, so I stopped. But now I really, really want to finish it because I think I do love Taylor Jenkins Reid. She's amazing. She's such a talented writer. She makes me care so much. And I think she is so good at writing complex characters. Okay, I think I've rambled enough, so I'll see you in the next book. I completely forgot to rate this. I'm actually gonna need a second to think about it. It is kind of sad because the first half is 5 stars for sure. So I think I'm gonna land on a 4.25, maybe a 4.5. I'm actually going to have to maybe at the end of the month change my rating, which is interesting because I think I might be the kind of person who, as more time goes by, I have a more clear picture of how I feel about something. But for right now, I'm going to give it a 4.25. Hi, I finally finished another book. Obviously you can't tell how long it's been, but it's been a while since I read Malibu Rising, and I've DNF'd 4 or 5 books in the middle. And guess what book I actually finally finished? None other than the literary masterpiece that is Choosing Theo. I'll have a better picture of the cover right here. This is what my brain was craving, apparently, because I started reading it and I couldn't put it down. This is an alien smut story. In the vein of Ruby Dixon, let me tell you what it's about. It's about a main character whose name I forgot. She's abducted from Earth. She's in a spaceship. It's a much less traumatizing travel to the new planet than Ice Planet Barbarian. That was like, oh wow. But on this one, she's deposited in a single pod to this new planet, and when she lands, she's all by herself and there's no one outside of the pod. So she gets out and she's like, what the fuck is going on? She hears like footsteps coming toward her, so she's assuming it's the person who bought her from whatever slavery or human trafficking situation this is. So she runs into the forest and she escapes, and for 2 days she figures out how to survive without eating or drinking any water. Then she finds a few people to help her out, and there's a meeting from like the higher ups. I don't exactly know how this political system works because that's obviously not the point of the book. And they say that for intergalactic law, I'm so sorry, the words that are coming out of my mouth right now, she's not allowed to travel back to Earth because it will like break some sort of secrecy code, whatever. And she has to live in this city, I think for a year before she can venture out if she wants. It turns out though that this planet and the city on the planet, they worship women, okay? Women are the end all be all. They are the matriarchy. So I guess if you're gonna land in any planet, it's gonna be this one if you're a woman. She has to get married. You'll have to read the book to figure out more of that. And the women get to take their pick of the men. The men cook, the men clean.
But let me tell you, I got this ring.
They're not allowed to hurt the women. They don't want to because they worship women. So it's a very safe place for our main character. And she finally meets Theo, the man whose book this is named after. So it's a marriage of convenience story, but he is a paranoid fucker. And he thinks for some reason that she's a spy because she could never love him because he has like black tattoos all over his body. So it's about them getting closer together in multiple ways. And then there's a big action-packed ending, which yes, was fun. It's something that I see a lot in mafia romances, which is one of the reasons I really like that subtrope of romance. And so I'm really glad I got it in here. Overall, I had a fun time. That's exactly what this book was written for, I'm assuming, and that's what it gave me. It was one of those situations, I feel like romantasy especially are those kind of things I'm thinking about at night. Like, what if this happened? What would I do? It was exactly like that. Like, what if I was abducted and I was put on this planet where women were worshipped and I had to marry this hot tattooed man who cooked and cleaned for me and bought me clothes? Like, oh, it really allowed me to kind of just escape and just have fun. And a group of my booktube friends, we are going to start reading each of the books in this series every month. So if you want to know more about that and possibly read along, buddy read with everyone, that sounds so fun. I'm going to link Meredith's Discord down below if I still have the link, because I'm pretty sure that's where we're going to be talking about it. But yeah, I think this is going to be a fun time. Rating, I'm going to give this a 3 because it got me out of, I'm not exactly in a book slump, but it got me to finish a book. And for that, I am eternally grateful. In comparison to Ice Planet Barbarians, I think I gave Ice Planet Barbarians a 3-star as well, maybe a 3.5. I think I like the smut more in Ice Planet Barbarians. It just did something for me that this one didn't. But I do like that in choosing Theo, it's easier for the two main characters to communicate. Oh, I do have to add that yes, the aliens in this story, they look like humans. Like, pretty much. I think they have pointy ears and they have these tattoos on their body, but that's about as alien as it gets. Guys, I just finished rereading Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. I didn't think I was gonna read an 800-page book, especially a reread of an 800-page book this month, but oof, I did it because I want to read House of Sky and Breath literally this month. I only have a couple days left of the month and we'll see how that goes. But I was so confused. I think I had previously read 150 pages of that book and I just put it down and forgot to pick it back up. I tried to pick it back up from where I left off. I had no idea what was going on. No idea. So yes, I reread this, which was a pleasure because it was one of my favorite books last year. This time I listened to the audiobook mostly and I like the narrator. Interestingly enough, I liked the main romance more the second time around, or via the audiobook. I find that to be very interesting. Although I found it overall, I enjoyed it more while I was reading it physically. For those of you that don't know, this is a fantasy about a woman named Bryce. And it's set in an urban fantasy setting. So she's in a city, there's cell phones, there's television, and there's all sorts of creatures. Like, the amount that this world could go into, it's actually a little nauseating how many possibilities there are. There are humans, witches, ordinary animals, shifters, angels, fairies, water beasts, mermaids, nymphs, vampires, dragons. Literally, the list goes on and on and on. It's insane. It's a little crazy, and I love it. Anyway, we follow Bryce, who is half human, half fairy, and the people of Crescent City, most of them are not human, and they kind of look down on human people. And so Bryce is just kind of seen as this trash girl, especially because she parties pretty hard. And when we start the book, it's actually in the past, and we see her with her best friends. We get a little taste of her attitude. She's very spunky. And then something crazy happens, and I remember the first time I read it, my jaw was on the ground, and I was crying, and I had no idea it was coming. Again, I cried this time knowing it was coming. So yeah, it hit me even harder actually. Anyway, something happens and then we have a time jump to the future, and that's where we're at. Or I guess the present. I'm confusing you, I'm sorry. Basically, there's a mystery and Bryce is sanctioned with trying to solve it along with this angel who is sort of on the police force. Obviously, there's a little romance happening. Something so annoying in this book that I found very annoying the first time reading it is how much these two get interrupted whenever they're like having sexy time. I don't know why, because this is an adult book and there's very violent, graphic things happening in that sense. And so it's so weird that for 800 pages we are teased any sort of sex scene. It's annoying. And it honestly, like, as much as I like the romance listening to it this time, like, I bought it more. The first time I read it, I felt like they were more friends than lovers. This time I really did love their little love story, but yeah, I'm kind of like over it. I hate it when authors try to tease you for so long long without giving you anything because it's like, yeah, I don't really care anymore. I need something new. There's such a line of like holding back to add tension. If you hold back too much, the tension dies. So that's kind of what happens in here, honestly, by the end of it, at least in my opinion. The last 100 pages of this book, though, I honestly think it's unmatched. Action after action after, oh my God. I don't like the very end, like after the action, because it's like, what is even happening right now? But yeah, the last 100 pages of this book is absolutely insane. These are some of the characters who I am so excited to read more about and hopefully learn more about as this series continues. The Viper Queen, I want to know about her. She's like a snake lady. The thing that was so annoying though, listening to her, Sarah J. Maas does this thing where she repeats phrases. If you've read A Court of Silver Flames, actually I think it's in a couple of the other ACOTAR books, Like Calls to Like, actually you hear that in here too. There's something that the Viper Queen says that Bryce hears in her head over and over again, and the audiobook says it like this: look to the place that hurts the most. I'm sorry, but I ate that. Like that was word for word, tone by tone, exactly how the audiobook did it. Wow, I'm so skilled. I'm so interested in the Viper Queen, but if I have to listen to that bitch say that line one more time in my ear, like it's somehow different reading it and hearing it. Look to what hurts the most. Anyway, I'm very much interested in Hypaxia, mostly the witches in general. Like I want to know about witches. I'm a witch girl, I want to know about the witches. Fury, I gotta know more about her. For those of you that don't know, she's Bryce's friend who's an assassin. She's giving Amryn from ACOTAR, but also somehow Selena, but like a quiet goth version of Selena. Like unmatched badassness, but goth princess. I'm digging it. Adis, he is a god from hell. I weirdly want Bryce to have a romance with him. Like, I want him to be the new Rhysand. I really do. And then Jessica. I am so curious about her. For those of you that haven't read this book, I probably just confused the hell out of you. So I'm so sorry. I'm not doing a good job of wrapping this up. But last year, I rated this a 4.5, but it was on my, honorary mentions at the end of the year. And I think I said that all of those honorary mentions are bumped up to a 5. And yes, this is a 5 because how else could I just binge through an 800 book for the second time and not get bored? That's so impressive to me. Hopefully in this wrap up, you'll see me finish this book as well. I've been putting it off because I have seen some bad reviews about it. Not bad, but like they say it's kind of boring and they say it's very different. I hear that Bryce isn't really the main character in this. Like it's a bunch of different characters and I don't know how I feel about that because I love Bryce. I love Bryce and Danica. Their friendship is end all be all. And I think that's really the thing that makes this book for me and why I love it so much is that their friendship is at the core, at the heart of this story. And I'm such a little bitch for it. Hey guys, I'm on sprints with everyone. Say hi. They can't see you. We're all reading Get in My Swamp, which is a Shrek retelling. Oh my God. I think this has gotta be like my first 1-star rating, but weirdly enough, I've never laughed harder at a book. Like it wasn't a 1-star rating where it was like, oh, there's a cat staring at me. There's a cat on the tree. Probably listening to me talk about this filth and he's judging me. Anyway, it wasn't a 1-star rating where I was like really frustrated and like, oh my God, this is trash. I mean, it was kind of bad, but it was just hilarious. And I think it was supposed to be, so that makes me want to give it more of a 2. And I like that everyone was reading it so we could talk about it and it was really fun. But basically this is about a woman and it's in like regular time. She's on her bachelorette trip and she's marrying this guy whose last name is Fark. And instead of being very short, like Lord Farquaad, he has a very small appendage. Anyway, she gets lost in the swamp and Shrek, whose name in this book is called Beck, this is him, he kidnaps her and holds her captive. And in like an hour, she's in love with him pretty much. I think the pacing is the silliest part of this, which is saying a lot. I feel like some of the other romance that is more silly, even like Choosing Theo that I read earlier this month, I really liked that one because like you bought into the story of what was happening. I mean, that story was still pretty insta-love, but it's like, it's more interesting and well thought of and like expanded on. Whereas this is just, I guess it was just kind of smut, but I guess I just need a little bit of story with my smut. It was very funny though. So if you want to laugh, read this book. Apparently there's a second one, and apparently this author has an AI romance, which is a robot bodyguard romance, and I'm weirdly intrigued and kind of want to read it. So I don't know, maybe I should look it up just for fun. But again, I think maybe it was mostly fun because everyone else was reading it with me. Okay, I'm gonna go try to lure that cat inside my house. Bye! So yeah, I ended up only reading 4 books, although I did get about halfway through House of Sky and Breath. I'm on page 320. I guess I'll tell you what I'm thinking because, I don't know, my opinion can entirely change by the end of this. I don't know about this, guys. I don't know. Like, I had warnings from people's reviews that I've seen of this, but then I also seen people like rave about it. So I really wasn't sure how I was going to feel. But I'm not feeling good. I think it's just, for those of you that don't know, this follows the same characters in House of Earth and Blood. I won't give you any spoilers for either books right now, but basically there's a mystery and a group of characters have to figure it out. And that's the part I think I'm struggling with. Also, don't pay attention to my ratchet ass nails. I'm so sorry. This book was so Bryce-centric. She was the main character and I love that bitch. And this one, she is, I mean, I guess she's the main character, but we're getting so many more points of views. There's a whole team of people trying to figure out this mystery. The mystery itself, I could not give less of a shit about, honestly, because they're about characters we don't know. And I kind of like in a mystery when the person figuring it out is kind of solo or they have one person that they're kind of talking to because, I don't know, it just has a moodier vibe. And this isn't that moody. It's kind of bro-y. And you know what? This could turn around. I could end up giving this 5 stars. But honestly, I feel a little aimless where I am right now. And all the other stuff, like the side character stuff, anything like that, it's just not doing it for me. Like, I didn't actually care about the mystery that much in here, but because I loved the sort of heavy grief discussion that was in here, I just ate it up. Plus the characters were giving me stuff. I'm not getting any stuff in here that I like. Anyway, also it's so funny because remember one of my complaints, if you were listening to me, was that they kept getting interrupted, and so this wasn't a very sexy book. I mean, there were like, it was definitely like high school appropriate levels of sexy stuff, maybe even middle school. I don't know, I read some weird things in middle school. This is so randomly smutty without actually them having sex, and it just feels so random. Like, I love a smutty time. I read ogre smut just this month, but because the first book wasn't like, it didn't have the same sort of smutty tone, it feels so random. And the scenes, I think there have been 2 scenes, they just felt so, I'm gonna say random again, they felt so random, okay? I feel like if you're gonna go smutty, you might as well go the whole way, baby. You might as well go there, okay? I started 2 other books in August. One, 0 Days by Ruth Ware. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't get into it. I had the audiobook from the library, so maybe I should try tackling it physically. But honestly, it was just so boring, which is weird because it's from the point of view of a woman sort of doing a heist adventure thing. It was surprisingly very boring. And I think I just have boring PTSD from Ruth Ware's The It Girl that I was like, yeah, I can't listen to this right now. So I guess if my TBR game tells me to read this at some point, I will be reading it, but I don't see myself putting this on any TBR in the near future. Although if I see a good enough review about it, I'll probably end up reading it. So I am just a sheep, apparently. I also started Elton John's autobiography, or is it a memoir? I can never tell the difference. I think it's called Me, and I was very much loving it. I actually don't know why I stopped listening to this. Elton, Sir Elton, he actually narrates a preface, and then the rest of the book is narrated by the guy that played him in the movie. I haven't seen the movie, but I really like this actor from The Kingsman. Anyway, I love his voice. I could listen to him tell me a story all day. Plus, I love Elton John. When I was in the 9th grade, don't ask me how this happened. I became obsessed with Elton John. I spent all of my hard-earned chore and babysitting money on Elton John's CDs. Like, I grabbed as many as I could find, and most of them had all the same songs on them because they were like all his hits. And I read articles about him on the internet about how he had goldfish in his platform shoes. I don't know what possessed me. I was obsessed with this man. And so there's a part of me that just loves Elton so much. And this memoir is really fun because right now where I am at in the book, I think is it the 70s? What is even time? I don't know. It was a long time ago before I was born, but it feels very retro and like I'm watching a movie, and it's just, I think it's well written. He's name dropping a lot of people I don't even know, but I'm having fun because I kind of like that vibe, like that celebrity 70s rock star vibe. Right now, he hasn't even made it big yet, so I'm excited to see more of his story evolve, but right now it's so fun. Now, I did DNF, okay, let me get my list. I DNF'd 4 books. First of all, Divine Rivals. I'm so sad to do this because everyone is raving about it right now. I've been hearing nothing but amazing things about it. I didn't hate it, okay? I actually got to page 124 and I was not hating it, but it was boring. And it's so weird of me to DNF it because I could tell that things were about to ramp up and yet I couldn't talk myself into finishing it. So this is one that I probably at some point am going to revisit, but like, I don't know. I think it's worth it because I've heard most people talk about how the ending is like, oh my god. This is a story about enemies in the workplace falling in love. It is a historical fantasy setting where there are like gods and mythological creatures, I think. Our main character is a journalist. She is freshly 18. Her brother's off to war. Her mom is struggling with drinking because she's depressed about her brother. And so like there's a lot going on in our main character's life and it just kind of gets sad. It's kind of a sad book. She ends up trying to send magical letters. I don't think she intended to do this. I think she was just trying to like therapize by writing things out. And then she put it in a cupboard, but then the letters were disappearing. And so she's like, well, maybe it's actually going to her brother. No, they're actually going to her arch nemesis. And one day he decides to answer her back anonymously and they start talking to each other. Some of the things I didn't like, first of all, these two are not enemies. They don't like each other for like 5 pages. And then they're suddenly friendly toward each other, sharing their traumas a little bit, which, you know, I like that they like each other and are friends, but then like, why try to sell us and try to convince us that they're enemies? Because they're not. I also said in my reading journal that I don't like being gaslit into believing that they've exchanged dozens of letters. Obviously, the main girl, she has no idea that it's him, but the person that's answering her letters, she feels like super close to, but we only see them exchange like 2 or 3 letters and I don't know, guys. I'm sorry, I'm being like a little spoil sport, but I couldn't really attach myself too strongly to this. Again, maybe that would change if I actually finished the book. Then Unhinged, which was part of my TBR game for August. This one, there's nothing wrong with it. I only got 7% in, but there's a lot of trigger warnings and content warnings that I'm not comfortable reading that are gonna be upsetting to me. And I also don't like in the first chapter, now this could be a villain saying this, I don't know if this character is supposed to be a good guy or not. He's saying about how abused children are pretty much like blights on society, and like as a child of abuse, I really didn't like reading that. I'm really hoping that they actually flip that narrative and that's part of the story, but I can't get myself to try it out. So let me know in the comments. I guess that would be a spoiler for other people, but if you read this and it's not as problematic as it sounds, then let me know. Okay, the next one I DNF was The 100 Loves of Juliet by Evelyn Skye, and I'm so sad about this because I had pretty high hopes. And again, I only gave it 12%. Lately, I've been like, DNF at the first sign of boredom, which is, I don't know if that's lazy of me or what. I completely forget why I wasn't vibing with this. So let me read my comment. I knew this was a retelling, but boy is it heavy-handed. They've discussed Romeo and Juliet 3 times in 5 chapters, maybe even more. Now I remember that. It's repetitive and unbelievable in a cringe way. Oh God. She sees a guy she's imagined and immediately is like, I know you. Plus his aging thing might be weak world building. Okay, it sounds like I didn't give this much of a chance. Romeo and Juliet as a story is very insta love, so maybe I should have tried to be a little more patient about it. But I do dislike in a retelling when the actual original story that's inspiring the new story is mentioned, especially multiple times. Like, what? Why? Because now I'm questioning like, well, is he Shakespeare at one point and then he wrote down this story? I don't want that. So I'm gonna wait for some of you to read this book or some more people so I can see reviews and get motivated. I'm telling you, I'm just a sheep. I just read what everyone else reads. I'm not gonna feel too bad about it. And then I tried Hooked. I DNF'd this at 13%. This is a Peter Pan retelling, but somehow it's like Hook and Wendy, or I guess Hook's son and Wendy, but Peter is her dad. I'm so confused about this and a little uncomfortable. I said that I hated how much of a shitbag the MMC was toward women in particular besides Wendy. Also, envisioning fucking a girl on top of her father's dead body, that's a no for me, dog. Oh yeah, okay, I do remember that. That was unsettling. I know he's supposed to be bad, you know, but that's gross. I could get through the insta love though, but the Starbucks villain is where I draw the line. So right when I DNF'd it, our main character Wendy, she works at Starbucks, and this patron comes in and he acts like a
"Make me my coffee, bitch."
And it's like, come on. I hate super obvious villains like that where there's no one that's gonna behave like that in the real world. Like, yes, there are asshole people that are gonna come into your store. I was a waitress. I've had them all. But no one's just like, bitch, make me a coffee. It was too silly. So yeah, what a month I had. Actually, it wasn't a very exciting month. I am glad though that two of my books, why did I just say books? Two of my books, I sort of buddy read with some friends, and honestly, I've never really buddy read before because for some reason it terrifies me. I gotta say, it was the most fun I had all month, and they weren't books that I even liked really. Definitely not books I would have picked out for myself, but wow, I had so much fun. I'm hoping for October, this is not October, this is for September. I'm hoping in September to read more horror because I haven't really read horror in a couple months and I am feeling a little bit deprived. I wanted to read Silver Nitrate this month because a couple people here on YouTube are doing a live show for a book club. I was gonna force myself to read it today, but the live show is actually at 6 a.m. on like the weekend, and I know I'm not gonna wake up that early. So if you are interested or have read Silver Nitrate by Silvia Marina Garcia, I will link the live show down below, and I'm so excited to read something with these wonderful people in the future. But yeah, check that out if you're interested. Anyway, let me know what you read, or at least let me know your favorite and your least favorite book that you read in August. And obviously, if you've read any of these, hit a girl up. All right, y'all, I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.